Hi, hello, good afternoon, everyone. You're muted, so don't worry if you cannot say anything. Thanks very much for joining us here today. While we are just setting up a couple more things, I'll introduce my colleagues who are here with me today. So my name is Kate and I work as a Director of Teacher Training at Grade Education Centre. And I have my colleagues here, Chris Reese, who's a teacher trainer, and a teacher, an author, and does a lot of things at Grade Education Centre. Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Hey. And we have Kseniia Biletska, who is our assistant to academic director for young learners and also a teacher and also does so many things here. Hi, Kseniia.
Hi there.
Hi. And hello, everyone. It's very nice to see so many familiar faces and names. Some of the CELTA graduates, some from ages ago, and some unfamiliar faces as well. Really pleased that you are joining us. Okay. So just a couple of household things. We will keep everyone muted for some time while we are talking about things and sharing experiences. And there will be time for you to comment and ask questions. In order to do this, you will need to either send us a message in the chat, or if you know how to use Zoom, if you can use reactions, or raise hand, you can do that. And hopefully I will see that and I will give you the floor to comment. The event will last for about an hour to an hour and a half. So hopefully good time for all of us. Okay. So first of all, let's start by introducing ourselves and what we do. So Chris, can you, before we start, can you tell us about the classes you are currently teaching and you have taught in the past, including age groups, types of classes, exams, and so on, all right?
Yeah, so then that just becomes, where do you want me to stop? I mean, this year I'm working with mostly teenagers and adults, lots of higher level classes, exam preparation, for Cambridge exams mostly, but in the past it's been primary, preteens, secondary, adults, business English, exam preparation, A1 to C2. So basically, I've had my hand at a little bit of everything, I think.
Yeah, so a question here, is there a type of class you haven't worked with?
Is there a type I haven't worked with?
I don't think so.
I think I've never worked with a real kind of multilingual class. I don't think I've ever had like a group of students from different, like all from different backgrounds and environments. That would be a fun challenge.
Okay. All right. Okay. And Kseniia, what about you?
I have taught various age groups, I started working with adults, and then I gradually moved on to young learners. And currently I'm teaching only young learners. I have a group of kids aged 8 to 10, and a group of preteens, preteens aged 10 to 12. So, yeah.
Sounds like the most difficult age group, well, for me personally. Okay, and the question to everyone, can you tell us which age groups and which levels you are currently working with, so that, you know, when we are talking, we can tailor what we are saying to your context? Please send your answers into the chat and we'll just have a look and comment. All ages, primary, wow, okay. Okay. Interesting. So we have quite a lot of people who have worked with primary and are working with primary. Quite a lot of people who have worked with adults. Primary, secondary. Good. So various age groups, so whatever we say could be relevant to different contexts. Okay, that's nice. Good. And Chris, so I know you have quite a lot of qualifications and certificates. Can you tell us about the certificates you have and possibly which of the courses or qualifications you found the most challenging?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I think I started my teaching qualifications with getting the Cambridge CELTA. Then I went on to do the Delta, all three modules. So the exam, teaching practice, and the course planning module. I think those are kind of the big main qualifications, but I've also taken part in trainings kind of all over the place, ELT management, things like that. So regarding the most challenging, I think nothing really matches the CELTA. I mean, not because it was the hardest per se. I mean, for example, the Delta was much harder, but I was mentally prepared for how hard that would be. I don't think I expected the CELTA to be as challenging as it was, but there we go.
Okay. Interesting. I'll be asking everyone the same question so you can start thinking about that. Oksana, what about you? What qualifications do you have and which one was the most challenging?
I started with my university degree. I graduated from Kyiv National Linguistic University. And when I finally got to a real life classroom, I realized that that wasn't enough. And that's why I took my CELTA, which was challenging, but I can't say that was the most challenging thing I did. I found International House Young Learner course much more challenging, because at that point I already knew what my problems were and what I struggled with. And finally, when I got the tools, I had a real classroom of kids who were sitting there and waiting to be taught. And that was the most challenging when you have so little time to finally practically start using all the tools that your tutor had given to you. So yeah, that was challenging.
Right. I think it's also very intensive in terms of how much you have to do, because you have to teach your lessons, you have to do written assignments, same as CELTA. Yeah. Right. Okay, good. So a question to everyone. Which of the teaching qualifications do you have? And I can see quite a lot of people who have taken courses with us. Send us your answers. CELTA, CELTP, CELTAS, Delta, TKT, TESOL, TEFL certificate. Okay, TESOL, CELTA, TKT. Nice. Funnily enough, very few people, or I haven't actually seen anyone with CELTP and CELTAS yet in the chat. It's interesting because we are going to talk about young learners and teenagers mainly, adults of course as well. And so the CELTP and CELTAS are the courses which are designed to help the teachers learn how to teach young learners. And so let's jump to our first topic. And our first topic we said would be difficult behavior. Yeah. We've all been there. We've all had disruptive students. For example, I had a group of teenagers in the past, absolutely lovely, smart kids. But whenever we started a speaking activity, it was absolutely impossible to stop them, whatever you do, because they wanted to go on and on and on and share their ideas, share their experiences. And they weren't reacting to any error correction, weren't reacting to any attention grabbers, actually. So I had a really, really hard time when I had to approach everyone individually to stop them. But that's probably not the most extreme case. We're going to spend some time talking about that. So first, Oksana, have you had any examples of disruptive or difficult behavior recently? And what did you do about that?
Yes, I have. I am a YL teacher, so I have that constantly. So currently I'm teaching online, and my kids, they love studying online, but at the same time, it can be very disrupting for them. And And the recent occasion I had when I caught one of my students apparently doing something else on the computer, and you can see that just by the light, that how it reflects on the face, that I'm not sending anything. They shouldn't be looking at anything else but our screen. And to be honest, this is a very hard thing to manage, because I'm not literally there. I can't just switch off the computer and say, look at the book and do the exercise. So the thing that I find helpful, but of course it doesn't work in any case, in all the cases, talking to the student privately in a breakout room, explaining or asking or talking, but not confronting this misbehavior in an open class, because it does the opposite thing. They I think children of different age, they can be very frustrated by this face-threatening experience when the teacher starts shaming them for doing something else. So usually I just send them in the breakout room, and I have just like a chat. I'm not punishing them or preaching them what you're doing instead of doing my perfect activity that I designed for you. I just try basically find out what is distracting them and why they get distracted. Usually it's my fault, because my activity is not suitable for this particular student, and I find that I can find that out only by speaking to that student.
Do you send them into the breakout room and speak to them like immediately, or do you wait until the end of the lesson?
It depends on how frequent this behavior happens. So if I see that this is something that probably starts already in the beginning of the lesson, and we are like 10-15 minutes into the lesson, and I already see the student misbehaving, so probably I would just send them to the breakout room to have a quick chat, hoping that this would amend. But in some cases, I just try not to be very intrusive, because I think we've all been there. We know how it feels to be a teenager, and sometimes you just can't be your normal self. We all have that bad days. So I usually ask them to stay at the end of the lesson just to have a quick word.
Okay, all right, okay. While I'm talking to Chris, a question for everyone. What examples of difficult or disruptive behavior have you had? If you can send us a quick line into the chat, and later I'll give you the floor so you can share your stories, and maybe we can collectively find some advice for you. So Chris, what examples of difficult behavior have you had recently?
Yeah, sure. So let's see, because Ksenia's talked already about something kind of really disruptive on the spot. I think one that really often happens, which happens to me a lot as well with teenagers especially, is that they don't listen to each other. And this may not seem that disruptive, but it can actually cause lots of problems in the lesson, especially if you're doing like some sort of information gap, jigsaw activity where they need to share information, they weren't listening, and everything just goes completely wrong because of this. So one of the ways that I typically deal with this in the classroom is that I make a point, especially if I see a group which has this tendency, or students in this group which have this tendency, that I never ever ask them about their own ideas. I'll ask them about their ideas of their partner. I ask them about the ideas of the person they were talking to last. And I'll do this not just with them, but with everyone, so that kind of we hear about everybody's opinion, but you never hear about it. You know, if it's Vanya's opinion, you don't hear about Vanya's opinion from Vanya, you hear about it from Anna, for example, and the other way around. And over time, as they get used to the idea that they're going to be responsible for what the other people have said to them, they'll start paying attention to it. And the other thing is, as well as kind of not, especially if I've let them know that they need to remember something, they need to listen closely to their partners, kind of not letting them off the hook. So if we get to, for example, I ask Vanya and he says, oh, well, sorry, I don't remember. Well, okay, Anya's sitting right there. You can ask her again. Takes a second, but after a little bit of time, not in a confrontational way, just know, okay, well, that's fine, you forgot. Well, she's sitting right there. over time, they get used to this idea that, okay, I better remember something or else I'm going to be put on the spot. And that's something that especially the teenagers don't like.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's one of the standard things we do and we teach on the CELTA courses, yeah, being communicative purpose. So listen to your partner and what is the word? Report about your partner, or tell us what you found surprising or something like that. Yeah, nice. Yeah, and actually a classroom management tool as well. I'm looking at the comments in the chat, and if you don't mind, I'd like to ask for more information. So we have Oksana Chugai, something funny like putting blankets on the students' heads and some other funny things. Maybe you could give us more examples of which things they did and possibly what you did about that, and then we could talk about it. I'll ask you to unmute if that's okay. Okay, I think I've done that. Can you hear us? Can you speak, Oksana?
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure if it's really interesting for everyone,
Okay.
but yeah, sometimes it happens that students are kind of, they want to change the routine of the lesson, and they want to do something unusual to attract attention. They were first-year students, and unfortunately, they didn't have that face-to-face communication, which they were dreaming about when they became students. So we teach and learn distantly. And it's a problem. They miss face-to-face communication. That's why that happens. But I didn't kind of punish them. I asked why they did that. And they explained, they said, okay, we wanted to amuse you. We want to make you laugh, or to have fun. So it was it was unusual, but it was nice. A nice break from that routine, of the lesson.
It's very nice. I think when they do it out of good intentions, it's I mean, we classify it as being disruptive, but that's still something good, which I think links to what Margarita Kirieva is saying, creating different backgrounds which distract other pupils. And I've actually had that with adults as well. So in this case, what I did, I had it with teenagers and with adults. And in this case, I kind of started playing along with them, creating different backgrounds. And surprisingly, they got bored very quickly. And so then we could go back to the actual activities. And we all remember that we have a limited attention span, which means we can focus on one task for a limited period of time. So probably when they start doing something funny or being disruptive, it's because they've already completed the activity in their head, and they want to move on to something new, more interesting, or just different. Okay. I have quite a lot of comments here, so I'll just be selecting some of those. I had comments about multitasking. Yeah, students multitasking. We have a comment from Anna Napadimka, right? I'll ask you to unmute and tell us in more detail, possibly what you did about that. I don't know which of the accounts to unmute, so I'll unmute both.
I'm here.
Yeah, okay.
Hello, everybody. I've got this problem. Yes, and Oksana has. Oksana is my colleague. Oksana Chogai.
Oh.
She's my colleague, and Hello. So she has commented my comment that teachers do multitask as well. Yes, sometimes I confess we do multitask because sometimes we have a lot of tasks to do at once, but we try to keep in that stream of the lesson. But the students sometimes they are bored, or I don't know. When they have their videos on, I can see that they chat with each other, or they just try to ignore my questions because they are too busy with their linear algebra, or I know that Oksana and we work with technical students who studies ESP, English for specific purposes, and English is not their top list subject that they have to learn, and sometimes they pay more attention to some other subjects, and they ignore our kind of efforts. So we have to work twice. I don't know, twice harder to entertain them, to keep in touch with them, and to just I don't know.
Absolutely.
Something like that.
I think we're going to touch on this briefly because our next topic will be making online lessons engaging and varied. So hopefully we will hear some ideas. I'll just comment on a couple more things which I can see in the chat. I can see a comment from Irina Kitnik. I used to turn off the light suddenly. This is a nice technique, but tricky one. I say it's dangerous because if you are in a classroom and you suddenly turn off the light, you know, some students might get scared, frustrated, not in a very negative way, but it might it might cause more distraction because they will need some time to get back into the learning mode after you switch on the light again. But this works well in rather extreme cases, I think. I had a couple of comments about students hiding behind avatars, switching off the camera, and interrupting the lessons for their private things. For me personally, I think the only thing that has worked in this case is negotiating the rules with the students, especially at the beginning of the course. So say, if you need to make a phone call, you can do this, but please mute yourself and please turn off the video. And also comment other family members get online, like dogs bark, doorbells, and so on. And I have a lovely little cat who is too affectionate, and sometimes when I'm in a lesson or in a meeting, he tends to, you know, crawl here, and I have to like really work hard to avoid my family member online. So a couple of comments about mixed ability, which is our third topic for today. We're going to get back to that. Multitasking, disappearing, computer installed messengers and chatting, that's a common thing. I don't even know if we can do anything about that. I know, Chris, would you?
Yeah, I mean, my teenagers, I think like all teenagers, are very clever when it comes to messaging each other. I think the biggest thing is kind of, rather than trying to stop it, which is something that we can't do, perhaps thinking about how we can arrange what we're doing around this fact. For example, we were actually having this discussion in the Telegram chat at grade the other day, what to do with the kids who were taking exams, how to stop them from cheating. And we were discussing kind of different ideas, but this kept coming up. One thing that we said was, for example, on a test, something like setting perhaps a rather short time limit for the test. That way, because if they're messaging their friends, well, it's going to take me a second to write the question. It's going to take them a minute to stop, check their phone, message me back. I might do something. It's going to take me a minute to check my messages. If I have to do this for every single question, I'm probably not going to finish. So using things like time limits to discourage learners from doing this could be an option.
Yeah, that's a nice idea. Yeah, but it's still, for me personally, it's a tricky question. It's a tricky thing. I can see, especially with adults, if they are chatting, using their messenger, maybe there is something urgent. Maybe, you know, it's their family members or something like that. And do I have the right to comment on that? With young learners, it's a little easier, but with adults, it's pretty tricky. A couple more comments and we move on to the next topic. Irina is saying, lowering my voice has helped to draw attention. And yeah, that's one of the techniques which I think we all share on the CELTA course. So like an attention grabber, stop speaking or just be quiet. We had a funny comment about students eating their lunch, drinking whiskey, smoking during the lesson. Yeah, I guess, well, that can also, should be part of the rules, if you like, because you can see, like, I have my cup with water here, and I'm sure we all like have coffee cups in the water. Hopefully, of course, not lunch and not whiskey and not smoking, but I don't know. Julia, it's an interesting question. Can you tell us what you did about that? I'll ask you to unmute.
Yeah, regarding this like issue, actually, there was a point about chatting, yeah, adult chatting. So I'm not sure I have a right to, yeah, so that should be a rule, yeah. But if it's your, for example, group you've taken from offline classes, yeah, that's something new, and that's my bad. I haven't discussed these rules like with them. So now I know that if it's my new group, yeah, so we should discuss it, but sometimes you might not be able to, you know, to get the point, yeah, if person is doing that or not, yeah. For example, with smoking, so they are hiding, yes, and I guess if it's an adult, so they should get the point that it's like, it's not okay, but what I can do about the mature personality, yeah, doing something like this. So it's not like with I think with like 20 somethings, yeah, so that's like I can discuss it with guys, come on, like eating lunch, but I'm not sure about like 30 somethings, yeah, people are mature, like should be. So I don't know what to do with that, to tell the truth. Discuss before the course, but what about during the course? Yeah, we know each other, they are already relaxed, you know, in terms of like personal relationships.
Possibly as part of a discussion or as part of the rules during the course, what I would do, say I'm teaching a lesson, having input or something, and then I've had adults, eat and smoke in class. And so during the lesson, what I could do is say, so I'm going to give you this activity and I'm going to leave you for, say, 5 minutes. But stomach really need to grab a sandwich, so that they understand if they need to eat, they should leave the class for 5 minutes. And possibly then, I don't know if the relationship permits, yeah, thanks for sharing. That's interesting.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next topic is going to be making online lessons varied and interesting. And I'm sure we all have our favorite tools. So I'm going to ask you to find a link to your favorite online tool, which helps you make a lesson varied. And then I'll ask you to say a few words about what this tool is and what it helps you do. All right. So for now, please send your answers into the chat, and then we'll talk about them a little more. Oh, we already have some ideas. All right. So, Oksana, maybe you would like to start with something.
I would say that I faced this challenge when we had to move to online last year, like when you suddenly realize that all your conventional tools are not appropriate, you can't use them. So you have to come up with something new, something that will make your lessons fun, especially in the context of teaching young learners. So I did lots of research, and at that time, Quizlet saved me a lot, and I see that some people have mentioned it in the chat. So Quizlet, this is a wonderful tool, not only for recycling vocabulary grammar that you've taught, but you can actually play games which are very interactive, and they are let's say more challenging in terms of how you play it for kids, because they have to communicate to be able to answer the questions, because you can't have all the answers on your screen. You have to talk to your partners to find out who's got the correct answer. So it's not only just about learning, it's also a team building activity, because teenagers, especially teenagers who do not get along usually in class, they finally start getting along when playing the game. And the other thing that I faced was that the term was finishing, and I have to come up with a way to do a revision lesson with my students. And the revision lesson is usually something boring for them, because that's just a task after a task after a task. So I had to come up with a way to make it like funnier, to make it a game. In class, you can play lots of different games with that. But for online lessons, I found a website which is called Jamboard, where I can share my screen. So here you create a game. It has categories. Each category has 5 questions, I guess. I think if you buy the subscription to this website, you can have more questions in the game. But a free version is only 5, and you create different questions. The team chooses the question. The complexity of questions increases, which is related to the value of the question. So it becomes a competitive game. And I found that it really works with teenagers, because they are competitive. And then I started using this with preteens, and it also worked. Surprisingly, they were very engaged into the spirit of the game, like they work in a team, they answer the question collaboratively. So it did save me my revision lessons. The other tools that I often use practically in every lesson with my kids groups, I have a website which is called Learning Apps, where you can create your own tasks which become interactive. So I'll show you which ones I created for my Academy Stars group. This is basically a variation of Pelmonies. And they have to find pairs, like a word and the picture. So you have to teach them how to play the game, because they need to have some vocabulary. So usually, like this game is meant to be played alone. So you just learn the words this way. But to make it work in the classroom, you have to draw, for example, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then A, B, C, D on top. So the students now have some tools to navigate, and they say 1A, and I choose the card to open the card, and 1B. This is how we play the game in class. And then I can send them into breakout rooms. One person becomes kind of a teacher who is responsible for sharing screen, and they can play it in pairs, in smaller groups. So this website is perfect for creating this interactive games, which will help you to facilitate, let's say, this learning process.
Very nice, cool. Thanks for sharing. So many things. Okay, let's hear from the other participants. I can see quite a lot of links or names of the things I haven't used. Let me ask. Okay, we have a couple of people mentioning Jamboard, right? Lena, we have Lena Varfolomeeva. Would you like to tell us about this tool? I'll ask you to unmute. Okay, let's wait. No, not unmuting, unfortunately.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to see you today. Thank you for our meeting. I use Jamboard, right? And I think it's very easy to use for different activities. For example, when we plan to learn vocabulary, like words and definition matching task, it's the easiest way. For discussions, for example, divide students into groups and give them a task. It depends on our aims, of course. I just start practicing. That's why, unfortunately, I can't recommend lots of ideas. I only used these two ones.
Okay, yeah, I'm not familiar with this. I don't use it very often.
It's very easy. I'm so sorry. I'd like to add. It's very easy because when you download this Jamboard and share links to students, it's like a board with stickers. You can choose different colors. It's also like signs for directions. And organize this work very productive.
Okay, interesting, very nice. I think we also
I recommend you to try it.
Yeah, we will. I will definitely. I think we have Alexandra Davidenko mentioning Jamboard as well. Yeah. Alexandra, do you have anything to add about this tool? Here we are. Let's unmute.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I do appreciate this tool as well, and I just have something to add concerning these two tools, Miro and Jamboard, used along with each other. So depending on my purposes, I resort to both of them. So Google Jamboard allowed me to adapt my previous card activities from pre-online times, which I find extremely helpful. And also, since I teach in this corporate environment, my students are already logged into their Google services, and that is why it's only enough to drop them the link to the activity, and the rest is history.
Okay, thank you.
So what I normally do is just taking screenshots of cards and pasting them separately.
Okay. Yeah, that's very convenient, I think. I use screenshots of everything as well. And for me, what has worked really well is creating a Telegram group with my students. So whatever we do, whatever I share on the screen or any tasks I have, I send them into the Telegram group just for their convenience as well. Okay, thank you, Alexandra, for sharing. We have a couple more things which maybe we could talk about. We have Lyudmila Sidorchuk. You mentioned Vivix, what is it? I personally have never heard of it. So can you tell us a little bit? I'll just unmute you. Okay. Ludmila, are you here with us? No, not sure. Yes.
Hello.
Oh, hello. Hi.
Yeah, hello. So Vivax, it's it's actually a tool which helps to organize different kinds of voting, online voting. It's very good tool which we use, for example, in in Zenol training. A very good thing when we need different answers from students. So very good. So we can see the percentage of answers and then comment on them. So very quickly to get a response and to comment. Well, this is how I use it.
Nice, very nice. I think a similar tool, is it Mentimeter?
Haven't heard about it. Yeah, tried Vivax and it worked, but probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think somebody mentioned it. It's Julia Schniep again. You mentioned Mentimeter. So is it something similar to this? Can you tell us?
Yeah, it's quite similar, but the only, disadvantage of using that tool, Mentimeter, so is that you have only 2 slides for free. And yeah, I'm not sure that's the same about the one mentioned, but yeah, for warmers, like for lead-ins, that's perfect, or like quick like checking, I don't know, some concepts, so it works well, but like a limited number of activities.
Okay, very nice, thank you. A couple more things. I saw something nice. Diana Pigilova. You were mentioning ABCYA. Again, I don't know what it is. Please tell us. I'll just find you. Here, hello, Diana.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I mentioned it's called ABCYA. Good to see everyone, by the way. It's a nice way of, mostly it is designed for early years, like very young learners. And if you need to practice in a fun way, for example, letters, well, I use it mostly for kindergartens, but for kindergartners, but you can use it according to the grade. There are grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and following up. And there are tons of games related to skills, to literacy, to math. It depends what you want to kind of support, where you need the support in your teaching. So you can try it. It's a fun way, an interacting way to grab their attention. So it's basically the attention grabber.
Yeah, I think it does add some variety to our lessons. So sounds interesting. Thanks for sharing. Another thing, Wheel of Names. Anna, we have Anna Molodych. Can you tell us about this tool, what it is?
Okay. Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Nice to be with you today. Thank you for inviting.
Hi.
Yeah. Well, it was unexpected that you decided to call me, and I'm not really ready to show, but I could. Yeah, it's a nice randomizer. It takes only 2 minutes of your time to prepare any, in fact, activity for your students. Usually I use it for warming up or for discussion, and it looks as a wheel, in fact, that spins around, and if you give control to your students, they can spin the wheel, and any question from the list is chosen automatically for them. So nobody knows which question will be yours, and then they can answer the question and delegate it to anybody else they want. So it's a kind of discussion or activity to interact in class. If it's clear, well, maybe if you give me just 1 minute, I could show you something.
I don't think we've enabled the opportunity for screen sharing.
Okay.
So
great.
But you have sent us the link, so we can check out the link a
Yes.
little
So
later.
my recommendation, yes, I'd recommend.
Great, thank you.
I can demonstrate Wheel of Names because I just played a game with it with my group of kids, and I use this for recycling vocabulary.
Amazing.
So basically, I do it in either pairs or groups, and they spin the wheel. They get the word. They do not say the word. They explain this job to their partners, and the other person or people have to guess. So this is a guessing game, like the replacement for the cards that they take in class. That I don't know why, but they love spinning this wheel. So it is absolutely exciting for them. It excites them so much, the process of spinning. So that's how you make them be engaged in class. You find something they are excited about.
Really nice. So many online tools, so many things to make our lessons varied. Okay. I can see a couple of links. LearnEnglishBritishCouncil.org, where you have activities. Live worksheets as a collection of activities. You know what, actually, what we're going to do is collect all the links because we have the chat transcript. So we're going to get all the links after this event and either post them on Facebook or send you in an email. We'll see how it goes because this is, I'm improvising here now. I wasn't expecting to see so many nice ideas and actually so many people. So thanks for joining once again. Okay, Chris, is there anything we haven't mentioned but which you really, really like using in class?
Yeah, well, I can think of a couple of things. I'm going to go a bit lower tech. So mine are going to be a little bit more basic, but one thing which, if we talk about something like drama, in the classroom. Drama is a really useful tool for the students to act out. It can also be a really useful tool for us as teachers. For example, this is a trick that I learned for teaching reported speech. I learned this trick from one of my CELTA trainers, Helen Taranenko, who's an absolute genius. I'm pretty sure she's here, so she just heard that. Yes. Oh no. So sorry, I'm about to give the game away. But basically the idea of the lesson is that the learners interview a gorilla. And then you use the questions which they ask. This is a magical English-speaking gorilla. So one of the ways you can get the learners to interview the gorilla, so to say, is by changing your profile picture. If you look at my profile, so of course, I did this a couple of weeks ago with teenagers. They were laughing hysterically the whole time. But this kind of gets us to another point of if we're using a technique like drama, and if the students like to make these funny backgrounds and things like that anyways, well, okay, why not encourage this and think about how we can exploit this in the classroom to make maybe a more productive, engaging speaking activity.
Absolutely. I think those things are the most memorable. And in my experience, for instance, when I finish a course with my students, I sometimes ask them, so what's the most memorable word you learned on this course? And they give me absolutely random things which are not even part of the course, but they were memorable because of, for example, like your gorilla profile picture. So yeah, we create cognitive anchors and yeah, that stays with them. A nice idea, really nice idea. Cool. Okay, so somebody asked in the chat, some people are asking to do that in an email. I think we can do it both on Facebook, share the links, both on Facebook and emails, hopefully. So we'll try and hopefully you'll get all those lovely resources. Okay, so let's move on to our next topic. And the next topic is differentiation, which when I was thinking about this event, I actually thought about it because I know Chris has given a couple of presentations on this topic. And I also recently designed a PowerPoint on differentiation. And I found it pretty fascinating because in the past I thought differentiation is when you have students of different, well, same level, but different abilities. Some students read faster, some students are slow readers and writers. But actually, surprisingly for me, in addition to this, so this kind of differentiation is differentiation based on their level of readiness. But some things I overlooked is differentiation based on the students' learning preferences, we call them, so visual, auditory, and things like that. And also differentiation based on the students' interests. And I think that links nicely to our first topic of disruptive behavior, because if the topic is not appropriate for the students, they may be really, really disruptive if they're not interested. Okay, so let's talk about examples of how we can do that, how we can do differentiation. And I'll start by sharing mine. It used to be my most favorite one when I taught very young learners, so 6, 7, 8-year-olds. A really mixed ability group, and some students were able to write really fast, and some were not able to do that and were weaker in terms of language. So when I give a simple controlled practice activity, like a simple, 6 sentences, fill in the gaps with one of the words from the box, I had 3 learning stations. And on one of the learning stations, I had this handout with no words in the box. So the student had to come up with the words themselves. The second one, the second learning station, same handouts, and the students have to choose from the box of the words. And the third one is a handout in which the students have the same task, but on the reverse side, they have the answers. So what they do is they simply turn the page and they copy. And research shows that it also works for the students because we've created the meaning with the sentence, for example. The students know what we're talking about, and this recycling the word helps them retain it. And if you want to do this task online, again, I use Google Documents for all the tasks. So I simply create one document with 3 pages or 4 pages in this case, and I say, you guys go to whichever page you like, and work with the task from there. That's for example. Any other examples? Let's say, what challenges with differentiation have you had? Okay. What specific examples? Reading fast, slowly, writing fast, slowly. Any other problems? Vocabulary, grammar, and so on. So anything like that? Maybe let's hear from Oksana first. Have you had, I'm sure you have had students who were of mixed abilities.
Yes, and I would say that it happens all the time. That's practically impossible to have a group of students who are at the same level and work at the same speed and have the same ability. So the last instance that I can recollect is again, my group of kids, they are A1 level, and they are 8, 9 years old. So pretty much any speaking activity comes to the point where either a stronger student will always dominate discussions because they have the language to be able to perform the task. And weaker students, or even the students who are a bit shy, they do not feel that confident to perform the task the way I had envisioned it. So the how I managed the task was to provide students with the visual support of what language I want them to use. So once you show them that this is like the question, what's the weather like today? And it's sunny, something simple. Or the more challenging, like, what's the most difficult job in the world? And they say, I think is the most difficult. So once you give them the visual prompts of what you expect them to use, the challenge is significantly reduced for the students who either do not have enough speaking skills or the knowledge of vocabulary grammar. And this task becomes manageable for everyone, because stronger students, they don't need that support. And for them, they do not even pay attention, because they easily grasp from my demonstration what I want them to do. But weaker students, they do rely on this visual support.
Yeah, and I think we sometimes say this contradicts the CELTA rules, because like freer practice has to be freer, they shouldn't be speaking the language, which I don't quite agree with, because especially if it's something complex, as you're saying, Oksana, it's not very fair to expect the students to retain this language within, what, 45, 90 minutes? So yeah, they do need visual support still, and for quite a while. Okay, we are waiting for your comments. We want to hear, we want to hear what challenges you have had with students of different abilities, levels, and interests, and we'll try and comment on that. And maybe while you are typing into the chat, Chris, maybe you can share some interesting.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So talking about kind of differentiation, we've really got two directions we can go about it. So I'm going to share an example of each. We've got kind of, just like Kate mentioned, we've got all the different reasons we might. And we might do this by changing kind of how learners should do something, or changing kind of our expectations in terms of what they produce at the end. So one of the ways that I like to kind of incorporate a bit of this is, I'm a fan of very cooperative activities. That's an activity where kind of learners have to work together in order to achieve a goal. And as long as you haven't got a learner who's really dominating the task, and there's ways that we'll talk about how to deal with that, it works really well. Something I've been really turned on to recently, which I've been loving the results of, is collaborative writing. So, and if I'll share my screen, I'll give an example of how this works. So, here we are. So, just like Kate, I also work from Google Documents quite frequently. And so here, this is an actual lesson that we taught. So this was all the setup, brainstorming ideas, gave them a checklist, fine. Here's the collaborative bit. So I made a document for them. They all have access to this. So they open group one. So I've got two students in group one who, well, that's a bit ironic. I remember that somebody else will read it. I don't think I had this in mind when I wrote it. And at the end, they both have access to the text. So they can both work together to write it. If you've got two students who are both willing to participate, and that's the big thing here, is kind of willing to participate evenly, you'll find that they each take kind of different steps. This is a piece of their writing that absolutely floored me. This had nothing to do with me. They did this basically, this pair did this basically without my help. But these were B2 learners who produced what I would say is arguably much better than B2 writing, just because they were working together. But there's another reason that, for example, this works as a nice method of differentiation, because I can also type here in addition to the students. So these were successful students. Let's have a look at less successful students. Yeah, I think this one was hers. So this group, if it's the one that I'm thinking of, was not as successful at the writing task. No, it wasn't that one, sorry. It was the last one. They weren't as successful as the writing task. And you'll see kind of immediately when we scroll down to their paper that it's not quite, yeah. So you've got this kind of big difference in terms of writing abilities between the students in one group. So they finished this as part of their homework, so they didn't manage to finish it in class. But we can see actually, that was their joke, unfinished conclusion. What we had done beforehand, because they had a little bit of trouble getting started. So I said, okay, well, it looks like you're having a bit of trouble structuring your ideas like we talked about. So remember, it's, and I put the frame in for them. Introduction. So, so side 1. Side 2. And because they were having trouble, even though we had gone over this, applying it. So having it here in the document kind of helped them get a bit further. So you'll also see that we've got a couple of linkers here who aren't, or which aren't finished. That's not a coincidence, because after they had their ideas, but they were still struggling to kind of put them together, I was able to come into the room, talk to both of them, and I just put in the linkers. I said, okay, here's your linkers. Can you just finish the sentences? So by using, well, as you can imagine, doing this for a group of, let's say, 20 students would be impossible. Like we could never do this in a million years. But because we've already set them in groups, that means that, well, I'm not going around to 20 rooms. In my case, it was a group of 10 students. So I was only going around to 4 rooms, which meant that I could spend a bit more time helping and adding this little bit of structure, adding frames, giving them a little bit of help along the way to the groups who needed it. So this is another way, kind of using pair and group work as a method of kind of differentiating. Yeah, sounds like a plan, especially for bigger groups, because that's where, you know, they can learn from each other, they can help each other, and get the task which is appropriate to their level. So any more ideas, any more challenges which you've experienced with differentiation and with learners, possibly learners with different interests, possibly learners with different learning styles? I don't see any comments in the chat. Is that because you don't have any ideas or because you're already tired? While you're thinking, I'll ask you this question, and it's particularly relevant on the CELTA courses, which we do online now. So we set up breakout rooms, which are fantastic for differentiation. But then say we have 3 breakout rooms in which the students, in the first room, the students are being active in doing the task really well. In the second group, the students are not working as hard, and you can hear that. And in the third group, they simply do the minimum, and then they start talking about other random things. And of course, we are monitoring, but what can we do there? How can we make the students stay on the same page, work at the same pace? Any ideas, anyone? You're writing down ideas. I see. You're going to get the ideas of the recording later. So, yeah. Comments? Oh, Chris, thanks for sharing the link. Yeah, creativity, coming up with ideas on the spot. Okay. All right. Good. So, writing down the ideas, very nice. Let me share a couple more things. So at the beginning of this event, I asked you about the age groups you're working with.
and there is a variety. And just to remind you that we have a number of qualifications and a number of courses. And one of the common questions I get is, I want to teach in Europe, or I want to teach adults, which qualification should I get? So I've sent a link into the chat, and this is where you can see all our courses. So just to remind you, CELTA is the most the most renowned teaching qualification, but it's for teaching adults. We do have an input session on how to teach young learners, but Chris, Oksana, guys, those who have taken CELTA, is it really about young learners?
No.
No, not at all. So all those differentiation things, classroom management techniques for disruptive behavior, they are not there. But they are in CELT-P and CELT-S, which are also Cambridge courses for teaching primary. P stands for primary, and S stands for secondary. And Chris is actually one of our trainers on those courses. And I can tell you, those courses are a lot, I want to say easier, but I don't like the word, a lot easier than the Young Learners Qualification, which Oksana was talking about at the beginning, because it's stretched in time. Also, if you want a more advanced qualification, that's Delta for you, which consists of 3 modules, and you can take all 3 modules with us, or any one of the modules. Check out the timetable. We've announced the module 1, module 2, and module 3 on our website. And also some great news for those of you who work at state schools. We have, and we have talked about it previously, we have a special program which is called Grade Teacher, and CELT-P and CELT-S are part of that program, and also our online TKT preparation courses are. The beauty of those courses is that if you take that course, you can get those hours as mandatory professional development, which I think happens every 5 years. And we have received confirmation from the Ministry of Education about this. I think it happened in October, November. And since then, we've trained quite a lot of people on those courses, and they've already received their certificates. So again, if you're working for a state school, and if you have to go through mandatory professional development every 5 years, you can choose any one of those courses or all of those courses, but not at once, please. That's a lot. Take this course, get the certificate, and get those hours as your mandatory professional development. Okay. All righty. Anything else? Any other questions we'd like to talk about? Please send your questions into the chat, and we'll just stay here for some more minutes. No. Oh, we're already getting thanks. So probably, oh, I have a question here in the chat. Is there an exam after Delta Module 2? No, it's not an exam. It's an externally assessed lesson. So you teach all your lessons, and our trainers observe you, but your final lesson has to be observed by an external assessor. So we invite those. Before we finish, while we're talking about those courses, a lovely thing for you. We have special bonuses for those who are participating in this great teacher meetup. If you participated in our marathon, you also know that you had to collect key phrase, and you had to which you can tell us later and get a discount for some of our courses. I think it's my time to say thank you to everyone. If people want to start leaving, I don't want to take up a lot of your time. So we had more than 170 participants, and that's amazing. And thanks very much for being so active and for all your ideas and all your comments. It's been really nice to hear from you. Thank you, Chris, for being here with us. I know you do a lot for grade, and you've found the time to participate in this. So thank you very much. Oksana, I know it's a hot season for you now. We're doing enrollment and you're helping with a lot of things and managing actually the young learners things. So thanks very much for finding the time and for being here and sharing your ideas with us. Okay. So if you wrote a question to me, stay with us and I will be answering your questions. If not, thank you very much and we'll see you around, definitely. So Anna is asking, are you planning to organize CELTA test courses online? Actually, at the moment, they are fully online because of the lockdown. Yeah. Because of the lockdown, we do everything online. All of the meetings are online and you record your lessons and send them to us. We don't go to your schools. Okay, the difference between CELTA and Delta. So basically, CELTA is an entry-level diploma, certificate, which you need to start teaching. And Delta is a higher-level certificate if you want to develop, teach more complex classes, more advanced classes, or become a teacher trainer or an academic manager. So entry requirements for Delta. CELTA is not mandatory, but if you don't have the CELTA and jump to Delta, you have to squeeze in the CELTA and the Delta into one course. And that's quite a lot. So we normally recommend taking CELTA and then taking Delta after 2 years. Okay, TKT. The TKT certificate itself, or only the prep course is taken? I think at the moment we have approval for our own TKT preparation courses, but as far as I know, ages ago, TKT was also counted as mandatory professional development. Diana, do you need to have a class at CELTA? Yes, you need to have your own class and record your lessons with your class. Julia, should the lessons be offline or online about Delta 2? It's going to be fully online. Everything will be in Zoom. Thank you. The dates for Delta Module 1. Lena, you can register and I'll reply privately because it's a private tuition. It's a one-to-one course. So I'll tell you about it in private. What tool are you using for making presentations? Personally, I use PowerPoint still, though I've tried various things. Don't work for me. Chris, what about you?
If we're talking about presentations in the lesson, I've recently started using Jamboards for it because I typically use Jamboards in Mira, and I'm a very visual person, so I need all of this moving around and pictures and slides and things like that.
Okay.
But Jamboards for me, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Oksana, what about you?
I currently use mostly Google PowerPoint, which is online, and it does offer you a lot of different features there. But I know that many teachers also use Padlet, but unfortunately these resources not free. So if you want to invest, because it does look very user-friendly and more appealing because all the things can move around, but it's just an option.
Yeah, me too. And Google Docs are good for storing everything. So yeah, fully agree. Okay, thanks for sharing. And will there be obligatory sessions in Kiev for CELTA? No, they are done online. Everything is done online. Okay, if you have more questions, send them over. If not, thank you very much for staying with us, for being with us, and enjoy your evening and enjoy teaching.